For coral conservation researcher Dalton Hesley, the first sign of stony coral tissue loss disease in 2014 was a sign that the Florida coral reef is dying. Since then, he's been trying to stop the extinction.
It's so deadly. It's impacting dozens of different coral species, wiping out populations in days, not weeks or months.
He says the coral reef is the Florida coastline's best protection against hurricanes and is now in danger. But to protect requires knowing how the pathogen is spreading.
Right now, we're trying to understand, of course, what is the pathogen, and to tie that to understand if the pathogen is coming from the coral host, is attacking the coral host, or perhaps the coral symbionts. We don't know yet if it is a bacterial, if it is a virus, or a combination of both.
And that's what Dr. Michael Studevant is studying at the Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Miami.
When we're trying to look for a pathogen with coral diseases, we often find a lot of variability and we don't understand the function behind it. And so it's made it extremely challenging for us to move forward from collecting that omics data to understanding the omics data.
But one thing is clear. The disease is spreading from north to south at what he calls alarming rates. And with the impacts of global warming causing more stress on coral species, their lifespan is decreasing, which will hurt the rest of the marine ecosystem. But as researchers still work to find how the pathogen is spreading, bringing in new coral species can only help restore the marine ecosystem from the damages of climate change. And groups like the Coral Restoration Foundation and Rescue Reef from UM's Rasmus program are planting coral reef nurseries right here in the Atlantic every week to make sure that happens.
Stony coral tissue loss disease is here to stay. There's no arguments against that. It is a fact of life for coral reef researchers. But at the same time, coral restoration activities are really ramping up despite damages to our natural populations.
The Coral Restoration Foundation acts as a leader for coral survival, having restored more than 17,500 square meters of the Florida coral reef already. And they're trying to educate Florida communities about the research on coral disease for generations to come.
We're talking with the public all the time. We run public programs, we have volunteers, we have interns, and they always have questions about the health of our corals. And whether it's bleaching, whether we're seeing disease, they want to have a better understanding of it. So for me, in my role, it's about helping people to know how they can be better divers and establish best practices in those kinds of scenarios.
With South Florida adopting coral reef nursery dive programs, confidence to help marine ecosystems is shared among hundreds of divers.
In the time, we've definitely seen a very stark increase in the interest. Personally, I think that's because we're meeting a whole generation who started scuba diving and now want to find a way to give back in a positive way.
I'm completely inspired in a whole new way because these individuals just have a light switch go on where they get it. They see how important these corals are, the dire state that they're in, but then the ability of our community as a whole to be the solution.
The divers at Coral Restoration Foundation and Rescue Reef from UM are seeing more support at the local and state levels, as policies and financial investments keep hands-on opportunities a reality.
Watching programs like this, educating yourself about it, and then spreading that coral reef awareness. That is one of the most powerful things anybody can do.
There's becoming more and more funding opportunities to do this kind of work, both the research and the restoration. And that's really, really critical because until we fully understand the problems, it's going to be hard to find solutions that can address them.
And for them, restoring reefs brings new optimism to Dalton and coral reef conservationalists, even as marine species still face threats to their existence. Reporting for UMTV, I'm Wyatt Kopelman.